So the topic is diplopia demystified. Diplopia is one of the commonest reasons why a patient comes to the ophthalmologist. They usually complain as double vision, sometimes blurred vision, and sometimes field defect. So, what are the important questions you will ask for when a patient with diplopia come to you? Whether it is uniocular or binocular, the mode of onset, whether it is acute, subacute, or chronic, whether it is horizontal, vertical, or oblique, if it is constant, intermittent, or variable, is it same in all gazes or more in a particular gaze, whether more for near or distant. And we have to pay attention to the associated complaints like headache, eye ache, numbness, because most of the mononeuropathies are associated with headache on the same side. And we have to pay attention to the periorbital swelling, redness, any neurological symptoms, fever, debilitating diseases, etc. Also, the history of trauma is very important, and any head injury, transient loss of consciousness, eye trauma, and etc. The superior oblique palsies usually the result as a result of a trivial trauma like falling in the bathroom, etc. And any history of ocular surgery, like even a periocular injections infiltrating into the inferior rectus can cause diplopia. And non-ocular surgeries like for example post-FES exotropia. See, you can see from this picture, this is a post-FES exotropia that was because of the inadvertent dehiscence of medial rectus, as you can see from here. And also systemic disease, ask for any diabetes mellitus, hypertension, thyroid related ophthalmopathy, malignancies, etc. So, when a diplopia patient comes to you, the first question you should ask is, does the diplopia go away on covering one eye? If it persists, then you are dealing with monoocular diplopia. The monoocular diplopia means there are few conditions which could be the refractive errors, corneal pathology, lens-induced, pupillary abnormalities, retinal pathology, and a very rare condition called CNS polyopia. So, as the patient enters your OP room, you have to note the look for the abnormal head posture, head tilt, any face turn, any chin up and down position, and also look for any facial asymmetry. So, if there is any doubt, you have to ask for the old photographs. So, you can see the head posture could be as subtle as in this picture, and it could be large as in this picture. So, sensory evaluation is very important and it gives a clue about the sensory status of the patient. Ocular motility is very important. Video. Ocular motility is very important. You have to look for the duction. Look for the ductions, versions, pursuits. Look for the ductions, versions, pursuits, and saccades. Cover and alternate cover test in all 9 gazes, and also do a head tilt test, and look for any accessory signs like nystagmus. And Parkes 3-step test is very important. And if you have a patient with for example, if you have a patient with right eye hypertropia, the first thing you have to do is tilt the head towards the right. And if the if the hypertropia increases, then you are dealing with either right superior oblique palsy or a left inferior oblique palsy. The next thing what you are supposed to do is turn the face towards the left. And if the hypertropia increases, then it is the right superior oblique palsy. So and if on turning the face towards the right, if the hypertropia increases, then you are dealing with the left inferior oblique palsy. So this test is very important. Once you make sure about which oblique is involved, then you can settle the rectus. Prism bar cover test is very important, and it has to be done in all cases. for distant as well as near. And it shows the maximum deviation in which gaze, and it also tells us about the primary deviation and the secondary deviation. Diplopia charting is very important. It tells us about whether it is uncrossed diplopia or a crossed diplopia, whether it is horizontal or vertical, and it gives us the direction of maximum separation. Double Maddox rod is very important, and in vertical deviation the patient perceives as a parallel line, two parallel lines. In torsional deviation they perceive as tilted lines. So we can actually quantify the torsion by asking the patient to rotate the Maddox rod. And indirect fundus examination can give a clue regarding the torsion. Forced duction test will tell us whether it is a restrictive pathology or a paralytic pathology. So at the end of the examination, we should be able to answer these questions. Is there a misalignment of eyes, and if so, is it horizontal, vertical, torsional, or a combination? Is it a congenital or acquired? Is it comitant or incomitant? If incomitant, is it paralytic or restrictive? Is there any diurnal variation? Is there any diplopia or ptosis? And is there any neurological signs? Look at this patient. This patient has bilateral and further tests should be done. These are the tests you have to do, and management depends on case based. Management is case based. Now coming to case number 1. This is a 28-year-old painter. He had a road traffic accident with head injury and had severe diplopia in down gaze, vision 6/6 N6. He had a right head tilt, chin down, and right face turn. This is a 9-gaze photo. He had left eye hypertropia. In this you can see he had left eye hypertropia, but in this picture he is fixing with the left eye. So it appears that the right eye is hypotropic. On left gaze, the left eye hypertropia is decreasing, and in left head tilt it is increasing. So what are we dealing with? This is the diplopia charting. We are dealing with left superior oblique palsy. So imaging was done and DMR was done. It showed 10-degree extorsion, and Fresnel prism trial was given, which was not satisfactory. So left eye inferior oblique recession and right eye inferior rectus recession was done, and the diplopia he was relieved of diplopia. This is case number 2. 50-year-old priest. He had diplopia since 15 days and left-sided headache, and he was a hypertensive. And this is the 9-gaze picture. He had nothing much in the primary gaze, but he had a subtle left esotropia, which worsens on left gaze, and he had a mild hypertropia which worsens on down gaze. So from here we can make out that we are not dealing with a mononeuropathy. So imaging was done, diplopia charting, and imaging was done. Imaging showed the left paracellular meningioma with cavernous sinus invasion involving 6th and partial third nerve palsy. So this is case number 3, 13-year-old schoolgirl who complained of diplopia and blurring of vision in the left eye, left-sided severe headache, and fever 2 weeks duration, and RAPD left eye. So this is the left for 9-gaze photos. He had a subtle left eye esotropia which worsens in the left eye, and on right gaze it became exotropia. And she also had left hypertropia which worsened on down gaze, and hypotropia which was when in up gaze it became hypotropia. So here we are dealing with 2nd, 3rd, and 6th nerve. So where is the lesion? The lesion is in the orbital apex. If 2nd nerve is involved, it is in the orbital apex. So this is the diplopia charting, and this is the picture we got. we assumed it to be inflammatory. So in IV methylprednisolone was given for 3 days and along with antibiotics and followed by oral steroids. This is case number 4. This was a 24-year-old metro site supervisor, diplopia since 4 days. He had RTA 4 months back, CT orbit was done then, there was fractured roof, medial wall and maxillary sinus in the right side, but he never had diplopia at that time, but the diplopia started only 4 days recently. He had limitation of the abduction in the right eye. So we thought it could be traumatic sixth nerve. But on imaging, we found what is this? This is dilatation of the superior ophthalmic vein. This is a sign of corticocavernous fistula. So this is a traumatic corticocavernous fistula. So he was sent to a neurosurgeon and transverse coiling and squid embolization was done and he is doing well. So it could be also a sensory exotropia. This person had a trauma, he underwent surgery and he was never given a correction. Later on somebody gave a correction and he started developing diplopia. So he was now put on Fresnel prism and if he fuses well, he will be taken up for surgery. And it can be decompensated IDS. Now Fresnel prisms were given and if he fuses well, he will be taken up for surgery. So systematic evaluation of diplopia is needed to decode it. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Kalai, dealing with that very complicated situation of diplopia.